What's up, everybody in YouTube land, social media land? Wanted to make a video on this whole if it fits your macros thing. A lot of talk about that right now. The fitness bodybuilding community, especially online, where there is this protocol or belief, ideology, I guess you want to call it, that it doesn't matter what kind of food you eat. There's no such thing as a clean food or clean eating or whatever, whatever you consider clean or a healthy food to be. And the basis is pretty much if it fits your macros. So does it fit your total overall daily caloric intake? So if your overall intake is 2,000 calories per day, you have a breakdown of this much protein, this much carbs, and this many grams of fat. So it doesn't matter where those come from, just as long as you hit them. So you could eat, egg whites and chicken and all that other stuff, or you could eat, cheeseburgers and just crap food, in my opinion, to hit your numbers. And as long as you hit your numbers, you're fine. Ice cream, candy, all that stuff. As long as you hit your numbers, you're fine. Now, I know the basis to that is there's quite a few studies done on overall caloric intake versus like quality of calories without overall intake. And both studies suggest and look at the same things. I mean, as far as results go, that some suggest that eating good food, or what we would call clean food, without worrying about total overall calories, is good for promoting weight loss and muscle gain. And then some studies support that as well for if it fits your macro style, eating whatever just as long as you hit your numbers. What I find interesting about that is a lot of the supporters of if it fits your macros, and not everybody, but a lot of them, are these scrawny online fitness guys. The guys you find on the forums, the guys you find leaving comments on popular fitness YouTube pages, always talking trash on Instagram, all this stuff, right? And we've seen them all over the place. And a lot of these guys support this stuff because I think it's hard for them to get to their goal, so they come up with a different argument. So they find a way to nitpick. That's why they can't get somewhere. Someone says, oh yeah, I eat clean, and the first thing you say is, well, what is clean eating? There's no such thing as clean eating, blah, 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 and go off on this tangent thing, There's no such thing as that. That's not true, and then provide all these studies with it. Well, guess what? If it works so well for you, why aren't people coming to ask you what you do to get your results? Not many people are doing that, I bet. I've seen a lot of these guys. They're not very big. They don't have a lot of muscle. And I'm not saying it's the end all to be all to be big and huge and muscular, but to at least be what we would consider appealing to most people who are serious about working out. You may be appealing to the average Joe because you don't have a fat belly or whatnot, and you're not walking around all sloppy or whatever. You have a little definition, that's fine. But what's wrong with this whole thing is people are always trying to tell you people are always trying to tell you what to do and how to do it. It's okay to have your opinions. It's okay to have the way that you do things. And such the cliche statement of do what works for you is so true, especially in this point, because why do you care what the next man is putting in his body? Why do you care what the next person is eating? Why do you care what they call their dieting? Intermittent fasting, high protein, all these different diet styles, keto, and if it fits your macros, and all this stuff, right? Why does it matter what that other person is doing? You know, if you have a way of life that you live, choices that you make, a style of training that you do, a style of eating that you do it, you know? Do it and let your results be the proof of what you preach. Now, a lot of competitors, bodybuilding and men's physique and women's bikini and physique and figure and all that stuff, bodybuilding, there's, for most people, there's kind of a same formula. Now, we all do things differently. Everyone does things a little bit differently. Has their certain foods. Some guys like to do sweet potatoes. Some guys like to stick with just potatoes. Some guys like to stick with just oats or rice. All these things. You know, some guys are big proponents of just fish, and some are chicken and all. It just depends on what your school of belief is and what's worked for you or your clients. Now, when you get these newbies who read a couple things online now trying to come out and say, oh no, that's all wrong, you know, on what basis? Because the study said so? Because studies are, you can, if you're smart enough, you can always find a flaw in a study. A study is a more controlled environment. A study is also typically done on some average people, and we know average people don't always stick to the same thing with strict discipline, because that's what makes them, you know, more average than above average as far as their physique goes. So what are you basing it off of? Just something you read? Because there's a lot that you can just read about finance, or read about economics, or read about history, or taught about history, or all these things. But that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, that it's applicable to real life. You know, especially when you get into theory type stuff, management, you know, psychology, all those things. You can read about all these studies. You can read about all these things, but that doesn't hold fast always in real life, because there's so many other different variables. And with fitness stuff and dieting, you have genetic variables where certain genetic mutations and strengths and weaknesses dictate a lot of what a certain food is going to do for you, a certain exercise, a certain amount of sleep, a certain amount of water, all these different things, how you're going to look, dictate a lot of that. So, you know, I can speak in experience for me. Like, I couldn't do if it fit your macros. I can't eat sugar. If I eat sugar, I blow up. You know, this weekend I got a little, not a cheat meal, but a high carb day where my coach had me have a slice of carrot cake. And I went from 216 that morning all the way up to 219 and change in one day because of sugar. And that should be proof enough right there in real life. If you actually do this stuff and you take into account what's going on in your body instead of just doing it to do it, when you really look at being efficient, that's the key word, is being efficient. Efficiency, you start to notice things to really tighten down on what you're doing, really understanding how your body's reacting and working and stuff like that. Without knowledge of training and knowledge of your body, which takes years and years to get, it's very difficult. I mean, even if you work out 6-7 days a week for a year, you still don't know as much as somebody who does that for, 10, 11, 12, 13, or 20 years. Even though you may not agree with them. But a lot of thing is this whole sense of entitlement, especially with this generation overall. And I know it sounds off topic, but it's not, because you got mainly a lot of these other guys, younger guys, supporting this kind of habit and way of dieting. Which, you know what, if they want to do that, go ahead, do it. But don't sit here and tell everybody else that's been doing this a long time that it's not the way to do it, or that it's wrong. Because if it was wrong, then how come people have been getting results, for years with the standard bodybuilding type of diet? Well, then they argue, it's the most efficient. Well, you sure about that? It's very difficult to tell because each person is different. Each person is going to react differently to food. So I say quit worrying about what the next person is eating and putting in their body, or what their, um, you know, what their choices are as far as how they decide to get to their goal as far as eating. Um, Offer up a positive stance on what you think might be good for that person and see what happens. I guarantee you, if you told the average person, yeah, dude, if it fits your macro style, they're not going to make it. Overeating, all kinds of stuff. It affects hormones. For the little guys that preach it, a lot of these little guys preach it. Like I said, scrawny guys who don't have very much muscle do it because they already, one, have a fast metabolism and probably don't eat enough anyways, which is why they look the way they do. And two, they haven't been putting in the time in the gym or the years in the gym, or at least lifting heavy enough to be able to get the results they want. So I just find it funny. You'll see it a lot online if you pay attention to like the fitness community and stuff like that. Guys that go off on it and troll all kinds of websites and forums and videos. So I'm not a fan of it. Probably won't ever be a fan of it. I don't think eating, Pop-Tarts all the time is the greatest thing in the world because it's all crap food. It's also, how does your body digest it? How does your body react to it? Does it promote a cancerous environment in the body? And we could sit here and say everything does, which is probably close to accurate now. But, do what you want to do what you got to do to get to where you got to go, and let your results speak for themselves. And that's kind of the old school approach, right? So do what you need to do to get where you need to get. And if you ain't there yet, shut your mouth. All right.